that is starting to really come back, or really not even come back, but really starting to take place, where we've got this world of the horror movie of people being tortured. Well, now, people are watching porn of people being tortured. And people are doing it for free because they want to be tortured. Like, that is just phenomenal. And what that shows me is you are feeding these other entities that feed off of that fear, because that's what it is you have no control. You're giving yourself over to another human being who's beating you and hurting you. And the only control you have is a safe word, and some people, even though there's a safe word, people who don't understand psychology don't know that person is subjecting themselves to a situation so they feel torment and pain, so they're not even really going to use that safe word most likely, no matter how far the other person pushes them. And yeah, there are the people who practice it and are really safe, and they're aware of each other and they pay attention. And those people are, some of them are highly intelligent people who do these things. And that's where you've really got to start to see, like I said, discipline as well as embrace. There's a reason for everything. I think sex is something that we can utilize as a species in understanding more about ourselves. But I think the porn industry is just a complete one. It's a fictitious way to portray sex. I think homemade porn is so much better. Me personally. But it's just, it's a fake. It's so fake, Hey, I got a package for you, baby. That was cool in the 80s, but it's like, I just think the more and more it comes out, and the only problem with this is now you've got the college girls who are competing for money, and it's sad because that's going to be on their career for the rest of their life, because the more that happens, the more that men are watching it, the more men that are watching it, the more their bosses are watching it, and then that's where, we're going back. It's almost like feminists created this new sexist world where not only are men sexist, but women are too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like You have women who are in power who are just as sexist as the men were, but it's all okay because it's a man. And that goes down to the boy with the teenage boy with the older teacher, and they're having a relations, and everybody's like, oh, that kid. And it's like, oh, but what if it was a girl? And it's like, but that's not our culture. Our culture is like, hey, good job, kid.
Let's say somebody records a video, of some girl, and he posts a video on a porn website, and now all of a sudden you got these hundreds of thousands of guys who are, looking at the video and pictures of this girl, and are, thinking certain thoughts and jacking off to it, and is there some sort of does something happen energetically to those, well, not just to those people, but mainly to the girl who's been exposed?
Yeah,
because
it's
so many people, looking at a physical, represent, thinking certain thoughts.
Hell yeah, because when you look at it, that's what psychic attacks are. Is when people are putting forth the energy purposely to damage you. And that happens all the time. Like, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, the whole presidency. Okay? Now, here's a funny thing. I think it was a comedian, I want to say it was Bill Hicks. But basically, imagine the president. He gets, he promises all these things to the people. He thinks everything's cool. He's got everybody in his pocket. He gets the presidency. Then all of a sudden, Secret Service takes him into a room and shows him the JFK assassination from an angle that nobody's seen. And then they say, all right, you ready to play ball? And I think that's really what it is the president is a puppet. And because he's a puppet, he finds out he's a puppet, and then what happens to the presidents nowadays? Within 4 years, they've aged 10. You know what I'm saying? It's phenomenal. You can look at the last 5 presidents, and it's completely evident that there is something that is killing them. And I think what it is that it is a lie. Their job is a complete lie. And they're the patsy. They're literally all right, everybody throw the tomatoes over here. Let's all throw it at the president, because that's it. Like, he's the jester. He's the guy who's like, Putin's Putin's totally showing us because Obama's off, playing golf like a sissy or driving in a soccer mom car. It's just, that is, one, not even news, but two, it just shows you that he is a punching bag, and whether the guy is not a natural born citizen, none of that stuff matters. The reality is we can't even expect him to do a job. Like, that's just the reality. We can't even expect him to do a job. And I think, that seeing his age, it should be evident enough. But a lot of people don't want to look at those things. A lot of people don't want to think about the energy. But going back to what you're saying, I don't want to stay too much on it. Just I don't want to use the words too much because I don't know if that's taboo on this station yet. I'm still new. This is my second week. But, going back to that, when you create that, when you go through the action of setting up that profile, putting those videos on there, doing whatever, if you're a hacker and it's going through a secret, freenet database and there's all that stuff, you're putting forth intention. Anytime that the consciousness puts forth intention is an act of magic. That's what magic is. It's putting forth will. It's will acting upon the world and forming creation or destruction. And when you do that, you are creating a portal. You're creating a doorway because you're already opening for the possibilities of what could happen. Oh, why am I doing this? Why am I posting this video? What is it? What am I getting out of it? Oh, well, that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Or oh, this is what I do. The last girlfriend I did it and it was awesome, and all the guys liked it. I mean, it's just you're making money off of it. So you're already creating this open vortex of energy that's just being sucked in as soon as you set it up. And then once you launch that video, of course, on a porn site, it's going to get hit right away. And so it's like, boom, you're already creating that. You've already set it up, and now here we go. Now you've got all these people, and if some of them are soulless, or if some of them are weak souls, and they've got all these demons oppressing and possessing them every now and then, imagine how much is really coming through at that girl. And she has no clue what's going on. And this is really the trouble we see, is you could be getting attacked right now and you wouldn't even know it. And I try not to say that in the aspect of fear, because there's nothing to fear, because when you start to learn about magic and psychic powers and things like that, I hate saying that, but when you start to learn about psychic gifts, or telegifts, I like to call them, you start to realize that nobody can do anything to you that you don't always already allow them. If you are naive or ignorant to what they are doing, then they can still affect you. You have to know what's possible and be able to protect yourself from all the possibilities in order to truly not be affected by anybody. So you have to go through and study and say, oh, guess what? People can psychically attack me. Oh, guess what? The government can shoot rays with a satellite that can scramble my thoughts and make me think these things. Well, when you start paying attention to your own thoughts, they can't control your thoughts anymore. When you start paying attention to your own vibration, it doesn't matter what anybody sends your way, because every minute you're cleansing your space. Every minute, and this is what true practitioners do. They cleanse their space. They cleanse other people's energies. They some of us will feed on negative energy because it's bothering other people, but we can take it and process it and convert it to useful, because the reality is there is no positive and negative as good and evil. There's only positive and negative as polarities that exist in their purest form. And when you take them from their raw state of existence and you interact with our human existence, that's when they become tainted within the gray area. Kind of funny that the gray aliens, but and this gray area is really where we have this good and evil. But the opposite polarities of positive and negative, they're pure. Darkness is neither good nor evil. Light is neither good nor evil. When a flood or a mass extinction happens and wipes out everything on the planet, is that an evil act of God or evil act of the devil? No, it's called the process of life, the circle of life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I mean, you could definitely, you're on the right track. I'm glad you called. Did you hear about this on Facebook or freedomizerradio.com? How'd you hear about us?
There was a Starseed network on Ning, and they had some live podcasts on Blog Talk Radio. And, I didn't know what Blog Talk Radio was, so I just, decided to go down the list, and I just happened to stumble upon, your broadcast, and decided to give you a call.
What tag got your attention?
New energy.
Was there certain thing? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
New energy from an old world. And then I clicked it. I read your description.
Good. Yeah, I mean that's, unfortunately there's not too many of us who are opening up right now. There's a big push though. There's a big push. I mean, if you, you're in the U.S., right?
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
When you're 18, you can petition some orders and lodges. I mean, the biggest thing, man, is there's good and evil wherever you go. You know what I'm saying? So, one of the things that kept me from really advancing, I've been an EA in Freemasonry for like 5 years. So I'm just going to be a little open here on air. I was an EA for 5 years, not because of my inadequacy at learning, but because of my fear. When you look at all this propaganda on, Satanism and devils, the word Satan comes from the word shaitan, which is older than the Bible itself. So it's just like in the word Lucifer, like they're terms that the Christian canon takes and demonizes, when in reality, it's just like any other word. They're just words. They're not actual descriptions of physical beings. And then there's characters from our history who may be real, but they're not these, forces of good and evil that are constantly battling. Like the reality is, the polar opposites are always battling because it's the balance of life. But it's just, to look at this concept that there's some accuser who fights God, it doesn't make sense, because if God is all-knowing and everything, then how can something be outside of him, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
that's one, that...
Like I said, that's what gets a lot of people, to start asking questions. They start putting two and two together, and this doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all.
How can he claim to be perfect but contradicts himself? How can he tell me do not fear and tell me to fear him? Stuff like that.
Well, it's as simple as what you're saying right now. It's as simple as what you're saying right now. And for all you listeners out there, listen to this clearly. You said you're 17, right? It is as clear as you talking about the word God and you saying he and him and the claims from the Bible. That is how poisoned our society is. The Bible doesn't originally use these kind of descriptions. El in the Bible is not the description of he, it's the description of God. So it's just like the translation comes into this, English King James, and the fact that the King James Version is correct, that's retarded. The King James Version is completely wrong, and that's what I was talking about the Orthodox Jews earlier, is, our original Testament may be wrong, with some of the wars and the stories in there. So, I mean, it is, you just got to keep your eyes open, that there is something out there. I mean, you can feel it calling to you.
I understand. I understand. I mean, what you're saying as far as word usage, as far as he, she, stuff like that. And I mean, I am aware that it can't have a gender. If it did, how it just wouldn't make any sense, would it? But
no,
I mean,
no.
A lot of it has to do with what you've been conditioned to say, and
right.
I just have to recondition myself not to say it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the wonderful thing about. Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about social media and why, with my show, even though I have this esoteric, I do open up with the news brief and I do talk about tech stuff and new technologies and just, like I had an episode last week about protecting yourself. And, I mean, I go into the physical stuff because the reality is is this is something that is existent throughout all life, and it's just called truth.